Hello and welcome to Physical Inventory Training. This video will show you how to complete a physical inventory in the Primero Edge website. On my screen you will see the dashboard that is displayed once you are logged into the Primero Edge website. From this dashboard I'm going to select the Inventory tab to select a new physical inventory. Once you select that tab, the inventory home screen is displayed. On this home screen, I will see the latest completed physical inventory, as well as any pending physical inventories from that site. At the bottom of the screen, you will also see any pending orders or orders that have already been completed for that week. To initiate a new physical inventory, I'm going to select the Inventory tab, and from that tab I will select the Inventory category, and I will select that drop-down menu, and then I will select the Physical Inventory function. Here I can initiate a new physical inventory or search for any started or completed physical inventories. I will need to select the site to conduct this physical inventory for. If you are only assigned to one site, then it will leave your site there by default. If you are assigned to multiple sites in the system, then the sites will be displayed in alphabetical order. You can also select the period you want to conduct the physical inventory for. You can select an interim inventory, which will select an inventory at any time of the month, or you can do a by period inventory, which means the period has already been completed and all my orders have been marked as received for that period. I'm going to select the July 2018 period and click the Start button to show my physical inventory count sheet options. I have different options I can select here. The first one is the Quantity on Hand option. I have two radio buttons I can select, the All Items or All Items with a positive or negative quantity on hand. If this is your first physical inventory and you have not conducted one before, you'd want to select the All Items radio button. This is because if you select the All Items with a positive or negative quantity on hand radio button, and all of your items have a zero quantity in the system, as you have not conducted a physical inventory yet, then there will be no items on your physical inventory count sheet. If you are doing future physical inventories and you're from an ongoing basis and it's not your first physical inventory to be completed, it might be best to select all items with a positive or negative quantity on hand. However, keep in mind that if any items don't have a quantity in the system, then they will not be displayed on your physical inventory count sheet. Next, you can select by storage category or valuation group. This is how the items will be grouped on the physical inventory count sheet. Storage category will display by cooler, freezer, or dry goods, or however they are configured in your system, or by valuation group, such as commodity, non-commodity, and non-food goods. I'm going to select the storage category option. And then you can narrow your results to only show specific storage categories or specific item categories. So if I only wanted to count fruits, I can uncheck everything from fruits. Or if I only wanted to count cooler goods, I can only leave cooler goods checked. I'm going to uncheck my child nutrition database goods and only count my local goods, but leave all of my item categories selected. Once I have confirmed what criteria I want to go on my physical inventory count sheet, I will select the Start Physical Inventory button. Now I have a physical inventory details screen. At the top of my screen, I see a countdown clock counting down when the page will be auto-saved. In my system, I have a 5-minute auto-save countdown, so the page will save every 5 minutes, regardless if I click the Save button. This is helpful if I get distracted and I've entered some counts in. My work won't be lost. I also have a physical inventory summary section telling me how many items are to be counted. I have 41 items in my list to count, and I have it broken out by each storage category: cooler, dry, and freezer. So I have 15 cooler goods, 18 dry goods, and 8 freezer goods. The zero quantity items tells me if I don't count anything and leave these all blank, the system will consider those as zeros. So 15 out of 15 cooler goods will have a zero quantity, 18 out of 18 dry, and 8 out of 8 freezer will all have a zero quantity. That's because if I leave these fields blank under the physical inventory items section, the system will count that as a zero. I have a printable page button at the top of my screen, as well as a physical inventory print physical count sheet at the bottom of the screen. Either of those two buttons will pull up this report. This report will display my physical inventory count sheet in a printable friendly format. I can print this page directly by clicking the printer icon. That is if I am in Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer. If you are using Google Chrome or Firefox, you will not see this printer icon. You will save as a PDF from the floppy disk icon and save as a PDF. The physical count sheet displays all of the items to count in a printer-friendly format. I see it broken out by item number and item description, as well as the units for each of those items. I have the whole units calculation, as well as how many broken units equal one whole unit, and what the type of whole unit it is, whether it's pounds, bags, cartons, and so forth. It's divided out by storage category as well as item category. And I can enter in my usable quantities in the system. The important note is to count what you see on your shelves. You can print this out and divide it amongst the different team members who are doing the counting, and you can break it out by storage category or even item category, and they can enter in their counts. I'm going to click the Close button in the upper right-hand corner to close out of that screen. Scroll up to the top of my screen. If you wanted to remove an item from your physical inventory count sheet, you can uncheck that item. However, I will note that doesn't necessarily mean that item will have a zero quantity. That means I am not counting it in this physical inventory, so whatever it was before will remain the same. So if I had 2 cases of this American red fat cheese, and I unchecked it and saved as complete by scrolling down to save as incomplete, then it will no longer be displayed on my printable page. However, like I said, it doesn't mean it's going to be a zero quantity. It means that whatever was there before will remain the same. Now my number of items is displayed as 40 instead of 41, and I have 14 cooler items instead of 15. Once you get those count sheets back from those team members who have completed their counts, you can enter those counts in the physical inventory items section. You can enter them in by whole and broken units. If they've entered in any comments on the sheet, you can make note of those items by clicking the blue speech bubble and entering in comments in the comments field. And click OK. Any items that have any comments associated with them will have a note under the notes section, and if you hover over the notes, you will see that specific note about that item. The screen is keyboard friendly, so if I enter in those numbers, I can use my arrow keys to move to the right or to the left or down or up on my screen, as well as the tab button will also move on to the next available screen. I'm going to enter in my counts. I'm going to leave some of these blank because I want to intentionally have 0 items for some of them. And continue to enter in. The items will be listed in the same order that they were displayed on the physical inventory count sheet, that printable count sheet. So it should be a breeze walking through each of those items as they will line up. If you are unable to find a specific item, use the Control.F feature on the web browser, Control.F, and you can find a specific item, such as broccoli. If I was trying to find broccoli and if I entered those counts in, I could enter those counts in my system. I will continue to enter in my counts, intentionally leaving some of them blank and counting some broken units. And once you have completed your physical inventory, you can save as incomplete or save as complete. I'm going to save as incomplete, as I might still want to review it before I move on to the next screen. When it's saved as incomplete, I have a green message at the top of my screen. I see all of those items in my list. Now, if there were items that you did not see that you had counted on your shelves, but they weren't on this list, we can add those items from the Add Items functionality. We can narrow our search results by item category, or we can find that item from our item description. We can enter in the item name, or the Smart Search feature will allow us to find item by item name or by item number. I'm going to add that American red fat cheese back. You can enter in the counts here or leave this blank and add the item and enter in the counts after. So I want to enter in that American red fat cheese for item number SS102. Now I have 41 items to count instead of 40. Scroll back down. And if you wanted to save as incomplete, you can save as incomplete. Or once you've moved forward, you can save as complete. Once you have finished and ready to move on to the next screen, you'll click Save as Complete and enter your physical inventory complete details. You will want to enter in who did the counting. So if you had different team members doing the counting, you want to note them in the Counted By section, as the physical inventory will be tied to your user ID. So I'm going to enter in my users, my counters that I put in, Miss Piggy and Kermit and Big Bird. I did my counting. And you can even say mark who did each of their counting, or I'm just going to note best inventory ever. Any comments about that inventory, and save as complete. You will then be greeted with a message that says physical inventory has been successfully saved, and you are now at the physical inventory reconciliation screen. The physical inventory header will display who did the counting for those items, as well as who entered those counts in, and then when those counts were completed. There are two different reports you can pull out of the system to review prior to reconciling your physical inventory. We have the discrepancy report and the inventory valuation. First, we will look at the discrepancy report. The discrepancy report will display all the items that had a different physical quantity versus what the system showed in the perpetual quantity. The perpetual quantity is what the system thinks you have, versus the physical quantity is what I physically counted in this physical inventory. So out of the 41 items that I counted, 16 of them were different. That is 39% of my inventory. Now, when you're first doing physical inventory and you've done your first physical inventory, every item that you counted should show as a discrepancy. That's because the items showed as 0 before, and now you've entered in a number, so the system will display a discrepancy. However, for ongoing physical inventories, you will see this number should be smaller. So I see each of those items that are displayed as a discrepancy. For example, my shredded mozzarella cheese, I counted 10 in my physical quantity, 10 whole units. The system thought I had 20, as well as 2 broken units. So the system removed 9 in discrepancy and 2 broken units. Or my dairy milk, I counted 25. The system thought I had 20, so I'm increasing by 5. You can review each of those items that are requiring a discrepancy. Some of these I counted 0, but the system thought I had a physical inventory quantity. Once you have completed reviewing that report, you can close out of that report by clicking the X button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. The other report is the projected inventory valuation. This will show the valuation of each of my items. So all of the items that I have counted, whether I've counted them or not, will be displayed. So it will display how much I have in value on my shelf. This is good as a reasonability check to make sure I have the right amount on my shelf broken out. This report is broken out by valuation method and market value. But this report can be configured to display a different way based off your system settings. I have it broken out by each category, whole and broken units, and the cost of what's on my shelves. So I can review each of those items, make sure everything is valued correctly and everything is correct, and click the red X to close out of that screen. This screen, the physical inventory lines, shows my usable quantity, which is what I counted, versus the perpetual quantity, what the system thought I had prior. So you'll see there may be some differences, like this shredded cheese or this pasta rotini. You'll see some variances. And if you see those variances are displayed on your discrepancy report. If you needed to make changes to your physical inventory, if you're reviewing and you find something needs a correction, you can click the Modify Physical Inventory button and make changes to it. If you need to make changes, comments are required. So I'm going to enter in some comments and click OK. Say I needed to make correction to that pasta. I'm going to find that pasta, or you can use the Control F feature to find that pasta. And I'm going to change that to 20. I did have 20 cases, so I want to make note of that. Then I would go back to Save as Complete, enter in who did the counting, and we'll put in Miss Piggy, Kermit, and Big Bird 2.0. And we needed to recount pasta. Save as complete. And then I see my changes have been successfully saved. So if I go back to my discrepancy report, you can review that again. And now I have 15 items that are showing as discrepancy instead of the 16 I had before. Close out of my screen. Scroll down to the bottom. We also have the Cancel Physical Inventory button. This means I want to cancel out of this physical inventory. You may not want to select this, as this will cancel out of all the work that you just completed. The discrepancy report and projected inventory valuation buttons were the same buttons we saw at the top of our screen. From a next step perspective, once I've reviewed all my discrepancies and reviewed my projected inventory valuation, and I want what I have on my screen to show in my perpetual inventory, I click the Reconcile Inventory button. When I reconcile this inventory, this means what I showed in my usable quantity will override what was in my perpetual quantity. That doesn't mean what is here is going to be added. So my vegetable corn, I'm not adding 20 cases. I'm saying this is 20 cases, so it will remain 20 cases. Or if this was 20 cases or 0 cases, it will show now 0 cases instead of 20 cases. When I clicked Reconcile Inventory, I have a pop-up on my screen telling me my usable physical inventory will modify my perpetual inventory. So I will click OK. And then I have a screen letting me know that the reconciliation is complete. The rest of the screen will be blank. That completes a physical inventory in the system. If I wanted to go back and view that physical inventory, I see the physical inventory function, and I can find that physical inventory by status or finding all and clicking apply. And I see that reconciled inventory that I completed. If I go back to my home screen from the Inventory tab, I will also see that my latest completed physical inventory shows as reconciled. So I can pull my last reconciled inventory. If you had any pending inventories, that hyperlink will display any pending physical inventories. This concludes the video on completing a physical inventory in Promero Edge.